eyeshadow today, guys. I have the Cle de Peau eyeshadows. We're going to talk about the new release from Cle de Peau. We're going to talk about the formula, the price, a couple of other things. I'm going to do an eye look with the green one. Of course, I'm going to do the green one first. I'm going to compare it to the old Cle de Peau eyeshadows. I'll show you the differences. And let's talk a little bit about Cle de Peau versus the Yves Saint Laurent. All right, let's just get into it. So there have been a lot of blush releases this year, but now we have quote new eyeshadow releases. And when I say quote new, because Cle de Peau has had eyeshadow palettes before, so has Yves Saint Laurent. These are, not new brands. They're not new products to these brands, but they are reformulated eyeshadows, and they have changed their packaging quite a bit. Yves Saint Laurent has done that, and so has Cle de Peau. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the Cle de Peau release in totality up front, and then we'll do some eye looks with them, and I'll do swatches for you. So first, the most important thing to point out is that these, and I think people have already talked about this, but the refill, just the refill, is $75. So the refill is $75. The case is $35. Now the case looks a lot like the Guerlain cases, about the same size, except the front has the Cle de Peau deep, it's almost a black, but it's like a deep blue with the gold, and that's the Cle de Peau insignia on the front. Very much quiet luxury. In other words, if you know, you know. And then it opens up and you have, the case. There's a good sized mirror there. It's actually a nice mirror, and then you can put the case in, put the quad in. So why is that favorable to having a case that just, isn't replaceable? Well, if you want to have the case and you want to buy just the refill and not throw away a case, it's more quote sustainable, better for the environment. You get the little slot-ins of the eyeshadows, and then you can slot them in. And if you have a case that is designed, a case like Guerlain that has started to do designs on the front of the case, Cle de Peau has done beautiful designs on their products in the past. I'm hoping they do the same for this holiday on their lipsticks and on their cases, and I'll show you one in a minute. So you want to keep the case, but switch out the eyeshadow. So, you want to have the pretty case, but you want to have a different eyeshadow that week, or you want to travel with it, or you just, you used one up and you want to put another one in. So I like the ability to refill a case. I think that's a good thing. But I will say $110 for the case and the eyeshadow, that's quite a bit of money. That's Tom Ford. That's Chanel. It's actually more than Chanel, but Chanel's not, refillable. And it's quite a bit more than the Yves Saint Laurent's, which are $68. And I now have 6 of the Yves Saint Laurent's. I'm going to do videos with all of them. I've done 3 so far. And I love the formula in the Yves Saint Laurent's. I think it's my favorite. Well, no, it is my favorite new formula. Absolutely. I don't know if it's better than the formula that Dior had 3 years ago, because I have every single Dior quint that was released up until they changed their formula. So for 3 years. And so I can honestly say that every time they used that old formula, that aloe formula, I loved every single one of them. So I can't say that about the Yves Saint Laurent yet. I've only tried 3. So I don't have as much experience with them. But I would say if they continue the way they have, yes, Yves Saint Laurent will definitely be hands down my #1. I'll just say it. So Cle de Peau is going to have to work very hard for me to feel like it surpasses the Yves Saint Laurent. The price in and of itself is an issue. $75 for the refill, and then $35 for the case. Again, if they come out with really beautiful cases, like they have in the past. So Cle de Peau has done beautiful cases in the past. I don't remember what season this is, to be honest, but I feel like it was spring a couple of years ago, because I remember looking at it and being like, oh, I thought it would be more like winter, but it was the spring collection. But they come out with these beautiful cases. This is just one example. They've had some very over-the-top ones in the past. And then the mirror, and then the 4 bricks across like this, and this pops out. So they've always had this ability to refill the compacts, but you can see the compact is very different now. Like I said, it looks more like the Guerlain size. It's elongated instead of this sort of, you know, rectangle types, you know, on its side. This one, it has a push button closure, snaps into place. So that in and of itself, that case is $35. Then the refills look like this. So they're bigger, which I do like. I like the setup. They are 0.21 ounces. This one is sun-dried driftwood. And I'm just looking to see if there's anything else on here that I should mention. 24 months, which is a heck of a lot better than the Dior, which is 6 months. And in line with the Yves Saint Laurents, which are 24 months. So you snap them into the case, go into the case like this, just snap in. And so you get a case that looks like, you know, any other eyeshadow case. And then the green one, I'll pop it in, same thing. I think that's seagrass. So the $110 price tag for the eyeshadow, $75, and then the case for $35 is something to be aware of when you're looking at the Yves Saint Laurent, which has an amazing formula for $68. So current Tom Ford regular quad is $90. Yeah, $90 across the board is what I see right now. So again, those aren't refillable, and these refills are $75. So technically, the refill, if you want to just use it by itself, you can. You know, you don't need the case. So it is cheaper, but with the case, it's $20 more than a Tom Ford. And it's, you know, $42 more than an Yves Saint Laurent, which is quite a bit. The question about like why, you know, I'll look through the ingredients and see if there are specific ingredients in there. Cle de Peau is certainly a high luxury brand that does spend a lot of time and energy on their products. I love their skincare. I think they have excellent skincare products, and I have invested in them for years. They are also owned, and I don't know if this has changed, but they used to be owned and operated by Shiseido. They were the luxury brand of Shiseido. So again, I know they spend a lot of attention to detail, and their products have always been, in my experience, really excellent products. I've never had an issue with quality. Sometimes I don't like the designs, or I don't like the product because it doesn't work for me, but the quality has always been there. So we're about to find out if I feel like it's as good as Yves Saint Laurent and Dior and others. But I would say it's consistent. It is always consistent. It's always good. I can generally count on Cle de Peau. Also, I would say that their designs are usually quite interesting. There's some older designs that they've done for their packaging, for their lipsticks and their cases and stuff that were just outstanding. And their illuminators that they have for the face are beautiful. You know, they're not that different from one another when they come out every year, but the cases are always different. And again, you can pop ones into different cases. So, you know, that's a plus. So, $110 for the whole thing. They're available at Cle de Peau at the moment. I haven't seen them anywhere else yet in the United States as of this video going up. So, you know, the cases have gone up about $10 and the eyeshadows have gone up about $10. They come in these little bags. The cases do. The eyeshadow refills just come in a little plastic, you know, container in a box. Let's go ahead and swatch. So we have driftwood and we have, I think it's seagrass. Yeah, seagrass. So let's swatch the driftwood and then we'll swatch the seagrass. If you ask why I got these two, the green is pretty obvious why I got it. You know, it's one of my favorite shades. The seagrass I got because I wanted to have like one warm and one cool, so I could show you in case, you know, somebody wanted a cool toned. The neutrals that are in here look similar to one another. They really do. There's a lot of quads that I couldn't quite tell exactly what the difference was. Now that's a beautiful color story, actually. And again, that's number 3. That's Sun-Dried Driftwood. Does kind of remind me of like Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, those types of shades. Cool toned, a little bit of purple. There are 12 different color stories. 11 Azure Blue Sea. I'm sure many of you were thinking I might get that one. I haven't picked up that one, as you can see, because although I love a good blue, the blues that are in there are like sort of sea, because a lot of these are all like about the ocean, you know, the sea, the seaside. Those shades of blue aren't necessarily my favorite. They're lighter shades of blue. I like deeper, you know, more almost like navy shades of blue. So I wasn't as interested in that one. Will I pick it up someday? Possibly, if I really like these quads, I might do that. But for now, I have enough. Okay, so that's Seagrass. Definitely more of that warm leaning, almost grungy. This is like a pea green. This has, you know, sort of brownish to it. This one's the coolest thing in here. That's more like an evergreen, but it's almost it's like a forest evergreen. It's interesting. It's got a coolness to it that I didn't necessarily expect. And again, these are $110, so I couldn't buy like, you know, well, I could, but I mean, it would get very expensive very, very quickly. All right, so let's start. Let's take this sort of pea green shade. We also have in the next couple weeks, yeah, coming in August, we'll also have new Chanel and we'll have new Tom Ford and Chantecaille as well. So there's a lot coming for fall very, very quickly. But this to me is a fall, like I see this as a fall color story. Again, you could wear this anytime, but you know, for me, the greens, the grungy greens are a fall type of color story. Now the swatches, they swatched very well. It's very soft, very powdery and soft formula. It is not as soft to the touch as the Yves Saint Laurent. The Yves Saint Laurents are softer and creamier. These are silkier and more powdery, which is interesting. They are going on beautifully. As you can see, it's more of a, it's a softer look. Cle de Peau is not known for their, except for their illuminators, who that can be very, very sparkly. They have more of that soft, ethereal look to a lot of their products. It says a hybrid of makeup and skincare that highlights and defines eyes with elegant color for a naturally radiant finish. Light reflecting technology, primes eyes for smoothness and moisture, lasts 8 hours, delivers fresh, long-lasting color and texture 12 hours. Let's see. It says ingredients, light empowering enhancer delivers a natural radiant finish by moisturizing and smoothing eyes surface. That's the primer. We'll get to that in a minute. Premium argan oil, rich in vitamin E, provides moisture for smooth, beautiful eyes. New light empowering treatment powder boosts radiance and maintains smooth texture. New skin empowering illuminator helps restore and protect the skin. Environmental stressors. There's a lot of ingredients here. A lot of ingredients. Most I don't understand what they are. Like the first ingredient is synthetic fluoroflagopite. I don't know what that is. And then there's a lot of other stuff. Hydrolyzed silk. Interesting. So, you know, you can look online. They'll give you all the different ingredients on this. So when they say how to use, they say apply the lightest shade to the whole lid. Use medium shade to add shimmer to the eye. Lastly, apply darkest shade, the subtle touches of shading. Blend out powder, blah, 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 blah. There's a primer shade in here, or at least that's how they describe it, that you can use to put down on your whole eye, smoothing out the eye, the skin texture. That's what they're talking about when they're saying that you have this smoothness that it creates and the moisture. And that's interesting to me, but my question is, well, what if you don't want to use that one shade as the primer for the rest of the shades? So to be honest, I'm going to use the product in the way that I see fit to use the product. But it is interesting that they've created it in a way that you have a primer shade that is going to create a smooth canvas, if you will, for the other shades. My question is, if you don't use that shade, then like, does it not work? Like, so for this one, the primer shade is this. It's always in the bottom left. So you would take the shade, they're saying put this shade on first, and you'll create a smooth canvas. So I'm gonna put it on my eyelid, but I don't know. I don't love that idea. I didn't love that in the Dior Backstage products either, where they had, you know, one shade that was like a primer shade. I don't love that. Question is always, well, what if that shade isn't the shade that I want to use? I don't know. I don't, maybe that's just me. I don't love that, but let's try it. Let's put it on the eye. Need to find the right brush to do that with though. So when you put it in the brush, it does not work well, to be honest. I think it's meant, it does say onto a sponge tip or finger. So let's try the finger, because it's creamy. It's very creamy. It feels like cream, not a powder shadow. So it feels like that it's a different formula and that it's like the primer. And when you put your finger in it, definitely, yeah, it has I've already like made a dent in it like you would with a cream. That's it on my eyes, and I've used the light green shade in the transition. Now I know it said to put the primer all over the eye first, but like I said, I'm not one to I'm not one to do as I'm told when it comes to makeup. That's just not my thing. But I will try it with, I just put that all over the eye with my finger. The thing is, if you're not somebody who doesn't like to use your finger, that means you're gonna have to use a sponge tip applicator to put it all over your eye, or a brush that picks up cream, which I do have brushes that do that. But again, I don't necessarily want a cream primer in my quad. This is me talking through this, but yeah, I don't know if I love that. Okay. All right. Let's take that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the point of a primer. I have good primers. It's going to increase the intensity of the shade. It's creating a smoother platform. Again, agree with all of that. But I like to buy my primer separately. There's a particular primer that I like, that I use. So, you know, automatically you have one shade that's actually working differently than the other shades. You really only are getting 3 shades because one shade is a primer. Okay. Again. All right, so let's take the shimmery shade here. Put that on the lid. I'm gonna keep it out of the inner corner. There is fallout, but not, I think if you tap off your brush, which I just did, yeah, it'll be fine. Also, I would mention that there isn't a green in the Yves Saint Laurent. There's blue, but there wasn't a green. At least I don't remember seeing a green, which I thought was interesting. I think the blue has some green tones in it, but okay, those are the 2 shades. Then I'm gonna take the deep shade, that one that had like the hunter green that had a little bit more coolness. Yep, definitely deepens up the look. So what I would say is the shade that I used in the transition, you might want to use that shade for the eyelid, because that's really the only light shade in here, because the primer shade isn't really a shade. I mean, it has some color to it, but it's also, it's such a different formula. I'm gonna have to play around with this like a lot more. Okay, that is the look. Take the deep green and line my eyes with it. Let's put some mascara on. We'll come back and talk a little bit about this. Okay, final look. This is the Seagrass. Beautiful color story. Like I said, it's kind of those yellowy greens, very pretty. You know, I love a grungy green. Reminds me of the Natasha Denona, I just forgot the name of it, palette that came out. Yucca palette, which I do really like. And I think the formula's in there. Reminds me a little bit of the Tom Ford. Well, I can do some comparisons to that. What I would say though is that there are 3 shades in here. There are not 4 shades. The primer shade is definitely a different formula. It's cream. You couldn't really feel that when you first like run your finger through it because they're all silky and creamy, but it's cream. Like, it's a completely different formula than the rest of the formulas in the palette. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the one from Seagrass on my hand, and then I'm going to put the one from Driftwood on my hand. I'm going to do a Driftwood look in just a second. So what you'll see is both of those shades, the primer shades, which are just cream, don't really have, I mean, there's a little bit of color. So this is Seagrass and this is Driftwood. And the Seagrass looks a little bit like a gold and the Driftwood looks a little bit like a light pink. So when you put that shade on the eye, that is your shade that you're going to want for any lightness on the look. That's not a shade that you can really, I mean, it's going to be a very light shade. It's going to be used as a primer, a highlighter. They do have illumination to them. You can see that when I move my hand back and forth, and I'll stop my hand for a second so you can see what I'm talking about. But I wonder if you wanted to take that shade, I'm going to try it now. If you want to take that shade and put it on top of the lid after the look, can you do that? Now I'm going to use a sponge applicator because with this type of product, this cream, a sponge is going to work the best, or your finger, frankly, because it's a cream. Yeah, it does seem to work. You can put it on over the shadow. Okay, and it's got, like I said, it's got illumination to it. But the whole point of it, if I'm reading it correctly, is that the skincare that's in here is going to smooth out your eyelid so that you have a smoother canvas. So a primer. Eye primer that I like, the only one that I use is Gerard Cosmetics. Comes in this very little teeny thing. It's a liquid cream primer, which I really like. I love this one, and that's the only one that I've ever like continuously used. These primers have a particular shade. It's very light, but see what I mean? Like if you're going to use Driftwood, you're going to have a coolness underlying that look. And if you're going to use Seagrass, you're going to have a golden look underlying that look if you put it all over the eye. If you use it just at part of the eye, then you're not going to get the same use of it because I think the point of it is to create a smooth canvas. See what I'm saying? So, me personally, I'd rather just have 4 shades and I get to pick whatever primer I want. I like my primer to be neutral. I like my primer to not have shade to it because I'm not, if you have a shade to it, then whatever you put over it, it impacts that. So if these are highlighting, then what's going to happen is the look is going to be lighter, more illuminated, which you might want, but maybe you don't want it. Like, it limits the look. I'd rather be able to choose the primer that I want that keeps it neutral, and then if I want to put a dark eyeshadow on and keep the look dark, then I can do that. Again, I think it looks very pretty. I think it looks beautiful on the eye. I would also say if you're somebody who always uses primer, then this is built into the look. That, you know, that's convenient. Also, if you're somebody who has a more difficult time, like figuring out how you want to look, like you're not, you know, maybe you're a beginner at doing makeup, or maybe you're just someone who doesn't want to spend a lot of time, this picks the shade for you. Basically, it's saying, okay, for Seagrass, it's going to be a golden look. For Driftwood, it's going to be a cool pink. And it sets up the underlying look for everything else that you do. So again, I don't think it's bad. But really you're getting 3 shades and a primer that has some color to it. I'd personally just rather have the 4 shades. But again, that's my preference. It looks great though. And I'm gonna, with the Driftwood, I'm gonna put the pink all over the eye. You'll see that look in a minute. And we'll see how that impacts and see if it looks, my lines look lesser, if it smooths things out, etc. So I get the purpose of it. I just don't know if that's my favorite thing. All right, so let's move on to Driftwood. I'm gonna take all of this off and we'll do another look. All right, let's go to Driftwood, and I'm gonna take the little piece in there and I'm gonna use the primer shade. Now I do have like little sponge applicators with a handle. I do have some, so you know, I can use those for the future, but I'm kind of like, why not just use the one that's in here so you can see how it works. Actually, like a good sponge, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think you can see it is a very highlighting kind of shade, which does indicate that in the description of the product that it's meant to be a naturally highlighting, so it's not supposed to be like sparkly or anything, and it's not. But it has a radiant nature to it. And I think you can see, I'm going to show you what I mean by, you can tell like it's a cream, because look at how the quad has been disturbed. See that? So it looks like there's like a smudge in it. All right. So that's the primer shade all over the eye. All right. So now let's take, see this one's a little different because there's different, see like I think for the green one, what they would suggest doing, put this all over the eye, use that on the lid, this to deepen and that to intensify. For this one, again, this goes all over the lid, then you use something like this all over the eye, that is sort of like the sparkly shade, that's to intensify. So let's try that and see how that works. Again, I like having more free hand with makeup. I don't like, it's one of the reasons I liked palettes. I like to be able to do different things with it, but again, I like to do that. Not everybody does. People like more, you know, clarity. So yeah, I'm gonna take this light shade here. I'm gonna use that kind of as the transition. It's, you know, like a pinky, it's definitely cool toned. That's why I picked this one, because I wanted to show folks, you know, a cool toned neutral. And then the green one I was gonna get no matter what, because I just happen to love, you know, green shades. I think that's a beautiful quad. I just don't know if I can call these quads, because technically there are 3 eyeshadows and then a primer that has, you know, a shade to it. But the primer shade, at least to me, now again, I only have 2 of these, but the primer shade seems to be a light illuminating shade that will be either cool or warm, and will, you know, decide how the rest of the look is going to be. So that's the beachy pink shade. Now we're going to take this shade here, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to try a little bit on the eyelid. I'm going to leave it out here a little bit. Yeah, beautiful. I think it's kind of like a mushroom. And I'm going to leave the inner corner just the highlight, just the primer shade. But we'll put this on like the outer half and into the crease a little bit. Do the same over here. So yeah, the primer shade can act as your, you know, your light shade in your brow bone and into the inner corner. If you don't put anything on top of it, there is a shade there. It's very, very light, but you know, there's something. I'm going to take a clean brush and just kind of blend that a little bit. So again, I think the purpose of these, the overall look of these is different than the Yves Saint Laurent's. The Yves Saint Laurent's can be more dynamic, more, you know, that's what I'm looking for. These are elegant, soft looks. Again, I only have 2. Whereas the Yves Saint Laurent can be elegant and soft, definitely, but they can also be more dramatic. I think that's the word I'm looking for. All right, now let's take the deepest shade that's in here, that purple, and intensify the look. So I think that's what I'm looking for. That's not a surprise. Cle de Peau has always been that way with their makeup. Like I said, except for their illuminators that can be, their illuminators can be like very blingy. Not all of them, but like some of them are very blingy. You know, it just depends on the one you pick up. But yeah, so this deep shade, this purple shade, absolutely can intensify the look. I am keeping it on the outer corner and then dragging a little through the crease, but not, you know, a drastic, because I don't want to intensify it too much, just keeping it soft. And again, I think that fits with the Cle de Peau aesthetic, kind of like Suku a little bit, similar. You know, lighter, softer, elegant. Yeah, I really like this quad. I think that's very nice. I like the green one too, the seagrass. That's quite beautiful. Like I said, very elegant. Yeah, I think the formula is excellent. It's just very different. It's a very different product than the Yves Saint Laurent. It's very specific. Let me curl my lashes, put on a little bit of mascara. Okay, Driftwood on the eye. Absolutely love Driftwood. I think it reminds me a little bit of the soft cashmere look. Reminds me a little bit of the Store Dolls, that color story. The look itself, no, because this look is much more subdued, soft, powdery, elegant. I think it really is very nice and has a great illumination to it. But I think like the Store Dolls, for example, is very like, you've got that wet, shimmery, almost like Metal Lust kind of vibe. The color story is similar. But this does not have that type of shimmer. This does not have that type of, you're not going to catch the look across the room and be like, wow, what is that? This is more of a, this is my take on it, work appropriate, something you wear every day, elegant, that type of thing. Now again, that's all very, like, everyone's gonna have their own idea of what soft, elegant, work appropriate, those terms are riddled with issues because it all depends on your personal perspective and what you wear. So I'm always careful about how I say those types of things, and I always try to put on, you know, like, yeah, caveats. But I do think this brand, Cle de Peau in general, and I think these quads are meant for that. They're meant for a, as it's described, it says, luxuriously pigmented eyeshadow quad featuring a skincare infused primer. So again, it's focused on the market that of people who are looking for something that's skincare infused into their makeup. Finely milled shades, smooth, long-lasting, elegant, naturally radiant. Just think of just the words and what they're trying to describe. They're looking for a soft, naturally radiant, skin-infused look. This is not something that is meant to be dramatic. It's not meant to be a night out on the town. It's not meant to be, you know, you're going to a Studio 54 inspired theme event. Like that's not this. So this is very different. I think it's very specific. Now, do I like it? I do, actually. I think the formula is excellent in this, and I think it created a beautiful look. But I do think it's a subtle, soft look, so you have to be looking for that. Yves Saint Laurent, on the other hand, like I said, here's one that I haven't tried yet. This is 910. I think this might be a limited edition. We'll have to find out. But this is sparkly. This is very sparkly, and some of the other ones I've seen are very sparkly. And even Store Dolls, although like a soft cashmere and a beautifully elegant look, the silver shade that's in there is that metallic wet look. It's definitely, I wouldn't say it's dramatic, but you're gonna notice it. Like it's there. This is not like that. This is softly elegant. This is something that someone would wear on Succession. That's what this is. So what'll be interesting to find out is how my eyes feel, because it's supposed to have 8 hours of moisture on your eyelids, which I think is interesting. Does it make my eyelids look smoother? Does it give a radiance? Does it look softer? Does it soften the lines in my eyes? I feel like it actually does, but again, that's difficult to tell on just, you know, one day of use. It's kind of one of those things you need to see more often, but I do think the lines in my eyes do look softened with the primer down first, which is interesting. So I think it's going to take more time before I can actually rate it on my rating system that I do. But if you're looking for a soft, elegant, something with skincare in it, if you have concerns about like roughness or texture on your eyelids, if you have dry eyelids, more mature skin, I think this is absolutely made for you. If you're not looking for sparkle, if you're not looking for shine, if you're not looking for duochromes, this is the product. I think they're very different, the Yves Saint Laurents and the Cle de Peau. It's like it's apples to oranges. I don't think it's the same product. I understand it's eyeshadow and eyeshadow is eyeshadow, but I think this is different. I think this is meant to be a different thing. That's my take. It'll be really interesting to see how the skincare product, like the primer, works over time. Again, I feel like a shaded primer has limitations because it automatically creates a base for your eyelid that's either warm or cool. And then that's going to change the way that the look is going to look because there's an automatic base that's, you know, either warm or cool. However, that's true, frankly, of your skin, because your skin might turn something warmer or cool depending on your skin. So I'm not against it. I'd rather just pick my own primer and have 4 different shades. But I think a lot of people will like this because it just gives you that built-in primer that has a shade to it. You could even use it, like I showed you when I first put it all over the eye, just as one shade all over the eye and leave it. So, you know, if you're looking for more a simplistic look and you don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it, or you don't want to be creative with a bunch of different shades and stuff, this is a good option. Again, it's $110 for the refill and the case. So I am going to buy more of them because I do really like the product. I'd be interested in hearing which shades you'd like me to pick up because, again, there are 12 of them and I only have 2. So I'd like to hear which ones you'd like. I'm going to play around more with the green one because what I did purposely today is I did it so that it wasn't quite, quote, the right way in the green one, and it's the right way in the Beechwood, where we're putting the primer down on the full eye first. So tell me if you notice a difference. And I will obviously do a look with the green one, the Seagrass, where I put the primer all over the eye and do it that way. So we'll have more to come. But I'm testing out the Yves Saint Laurent still, and these Cle de Peau's, and Chanel and Tom Ford's right around the corner. So I will do my best to get all of it in, but work is work. I got to put that first. Love all of you guys, but I do have to do the job, which I love also, but also pays for all this. So, but I'd love to hear like what other shades you'd want me to pick up if I pick up. Well, I am going to pick up, but which ones from Cle de Peau you'd like to see. All right, guys, I think that was a pretty comprehensive video, giving you all the details that I have them at least that's what I know right now. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in another video really soon.